Hello and welcome back to the Digital Marketing Podcast. My name is Kieran Rogers.
I'm Louise Crossley.
And I'm Daniel Rolls.
And today we have the first of our toolkit shortlists.
Okay, so for regular listeners and watchers, you'll be aware that we are doing the Digital Marketing Toolkit Awards, where our listeners have submitted the digital marketing tools they love, and we've now shortlisted those. So we're down to 6 per category, and voting is now open. targetinternet.com/awards. You can go in and vote. It will literally take less than 2 minutes, and you get put in a prize draw for a year's free membership. So worth doing that. But what we want to do, I was really interested because there's some tools I think are fairly obvious that are great and we all know. But also there's loads of new stuff that I hadn't come across. And we do our digital tools episodes, and always really popular. So I thought it's really sensible. We're going to do a kind of double episode, and we're going to go through each of the categories, and we're going to list off the tools, and we're going to make some commentary on them, what we think, what they do, just kind of introduce you to them as well. If your tool isn't in there, you should have nominated it. It's too late, okay? So that's the first thing to say. But if we don't mention your tool enough, or you think, well, you spoke about that one more than my one, just get people to vote. It's as simple as that. Yeah. So this is basically a process now where people go through and vote for everything. And then those that get the most votes will be the winners. And the winners get a beautiful trophy, as you can see on the table here. But also, we're going to get people in for interviews on the podcast. We'll promote those tools and all those kind of things as well, because it's a really important part of what we do as marketers, making our life a bit easier. So let's do the first category, which is analytics. Louise, why don't you list them first of all, and then we'll talk about a few of them.
Yep. So shortlisted for analytics, we have Fathom Analytics,
Okay.
Funnel.io, Microsoft Clarity, SparkToro, Speetles, and Swido.
So why don't we talk about a couple, first of all, that I'm kind of familiar with. So Fathom, doesn't surprise me with Fathom, because they were the first ones that allowed you to import your Universal Analytics data really easily. Seen as a bit of an alternative to Google Analytics. Fairly simple in terms of reporting it offers.
I like that.
Yeah,
though.
I kind of get that.
I like the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
Like just one dashboard does it all, and you think, am I really missing anything? And suddenly you realise, actually, no, there are like certain things I always go to within Google Analytics, and it just works. I love the fact that it can be like it doesn't require cookie permissions.
Yeah, that's interesting.
GDPR out of the box, I think, and it's interesting because it does use cookies, but they're deleted every 24 hours, which makes it GDPR.
Definitely an interesting approach. So definitely an interesting one in there. Couple other kind of I thought were fairly obvious ones. Microsoft Clarity, which is getting a lot of votes already, actually, which is interesting. And this is one thing actually I should say. There's some tools that a lot of us are using, and therefore seem to be getting a lot of votes. But what's really interesting is some people we've mentioned them on the podcast before, and I'll come to them later on, and they're like, oh, wow, since you're on the podcast, we've had loads of leads and it's like, oh, good. Those are the people that are voting like crazy. They're obviously getting their whole user base to vote for them. So you're encouraged to do that. Go out there, share it to social media. All of the shortlisted tools, by the way, if you haven't already, you will be very shortly getting a whole load of assets that we've created for you. So you can share those and encourage people to vote as well. So Microsoft Clarity, if you're not familiar, allows you to do screen recordings, and it will do heat maps and all those kind of things, but it's free for an unlimited number of pages. So I thought it was a great tool. It was a kind of clever move from that point of view.
It's so good when it comes to filtering as well. The filtering's really powerful. Yeah. So you really can drill down and find, okay, we think we've got a problem with this device.
Or this page.
What's going on, what's happening. Like it's so good at giving you answers to the unanswered questions of, we know this is happening, but why?
Yeah, I think it's lovely from that point of view. It was also great. I still like rage clicks. The things it records, which is the people furiously clicking in one spot. So that's pretty good as well. And the other one is people clicking spaces where they can't actually click. And I said before, we had a really high percentage of this, and I was really concerned. And it turns out actually it's people copying and pasting stuff off our website, which is a bit cheeky, but it also means it's providing some value. So I'm kind of cool with that.
I love the scroll maps too.
Yeah, you see how far people have scrolled.
So good for finding why aren't we getting many conversions on this page? Oh, look, all the information and calls to actions right at the bottom, and only 30% of the audience are getting there.
Yeah, it's nice.
I think because across the different categories here, there's a wide range between free, not too expensive, and then the more expensive products. So for a free tool, it gives you a lot.
Yeah, right. And I think it's interesting actually how much stuff that's been nominated is paid for, but they seem to have a lot of free trials or limited versions that get people into them in the first place. So that kind of freemium model seems to work. Kind of Funnel.io, I wasn't that familiar with Funnel.io, but that they've come up and they're getting quite a few votes already as well. SparkToro, I love SparkToro. So Rand Fishkin's website, and interesting, been reading up what Rand's been talking about recently, and they obviously had some free tools on their website, and they were doing stuff with the Twitter feed, and they've got rid of those tools now because Twitter have started charging for access to the API, and suddenly they say it's just not affordable for them to do it. So some of those changes that are happening at Twitter, or X as it's currently being called, we'll get into that in another episode. Kieran just shaking his head for those that aren't watching. Yeah, it's a whole other story. SparkToro doing some really good insights, and I really like the SparkToro focus on basically PR, on like how can you find the people that are going to engage with you via news and saying something interesting and outreach and all that kind of stuff. So not surprised to see kind of SparkToro in there as well. Two that I wasn't familiar with. So let's go to one first of all. I know Kieran likes Swido. Tell us about Swido.
Yeah, so Swido stands for See What You Do Online. And it's such a good dashboarding tool.
Okay.
What I really love about it is everything you create in it is all drag and drop. It looks and feels like a Google Analytics report, which is nice. Like it seems familiar, but you can point it at it's over 30 different platforms. It's got everything from your GA4, Facebook, Bing, all of the different platforms, all the social media platforms, and pull in all your data from there. So in terms of like getting reports all in one place, it just makes everything an absolute doddle. And I love the fact that you can automate these reports and get them to automatically email out as well to different members of your team. Like it's just super good, super good, super good. I came across it when we were running an agency, and I needed something that would like just stop all the time suck that went into reporting, and this one did it. And they're now getting integrations with Shopify and Klaviyo and all sorts of cool stuff. And so it just keeps on getting better and better.
I think that's really good because even if, for example, you use a social listening tool, so you can get your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter all in one place, you still have to go to different places for your analytics and for Shopify and all that. So I think that's really good.
Just as that, I mean, Funnel.io does similar kind of things. It will bring all the data into one place. Funnel claim that they've got more connectors than anyone else as well. So, yeah, we're telling you our opinion of what we've used and so on as well. But if you prefer those, go and vote for them, okay? And then the other one, Speetles, which is something I hadn't come across before. So speetles.com allows you to quite easily, in a non-technical way, manage web performance in terms of speed of loading, reaction times, things like that. And we know it's a bigger and bigger deal in the Google algorithm. So I thought from a solution that's very non-technical, because a lot of them need you to integrate in from quite a technical point of view, it's pretty easy to use.
It's good for the Google algorithm, but I think increasingly what I suspect, because I've seen quite a few instances of websites where, you know, the core web metrics, that they're not so good, but performance on Google is very good. And it's like, oh, okay, what's that? So actually, it's not just about the metrics with these things. It's about how users are choosing to use it. So I think what Google have done with the core web metrics is they've pulled out some stats, some kind of tangible measurements that would indicate possibly a good or a poor user experience. But there's this whole layer of like content that rules the roost on that. And if the content's really good, you can still win. And because these systems are looking at what thousands of people are doing, not just one person's experience, but thousands, these things really can matter. So I can see in an e-commerce environment, when you really optimize everything, you want to be on this, and tools like Speetle enable you to do that. So it's kind of like platinum level kind of optimization, but I think it's good.
Core Web Vitals for a second to clarify for people, because there's a lot of discussion about this online in that, you know, it's not a direct thing that you get Core Web Vitals, you get better rankings. You're absolutely right. It is really about that user experience. But what's interesting is they are changing Core Web Vitals all the time. So it used to be, we had first contentful paint. Yeah. This contentful word. I mean, what is it? They've made this up, right? But anyway, then they changed that to largest contentful paint. So let's just clarify. The first contentful is like the first bit of the page loading up, but the bit you can see. But then largest is the largest segment of text or graphics on the page loading up. And they've changed that to be the main metric. Yeah. But they're bringing in new metrics, and they go through experimental, stable, and live now. Yeah. So they're kind of bringing new ones in. So you're absolutely right. It's indicative, but it's a good thing to keep an eye on because it kind of indicates that as well. So a good thing to look at. So there's a good selection of tools in there. I've got my feeling, I think who's going to win in this category. I'm not going to say it, but If they don't, I think it will be.
I've got a feeling too.
Yeah, you're
Actually,
not going to
don't. But if I say that,
yeah, it sounds
then
good.
I sound as clever as you are.
Well, I think there's a tool in that really stands out to me, but we'll see. And that's what I'm interested to see, because really this is about two things. It's about what people love, but it's also about who leverages their community the most effectively to get votes as well. So there's a bit of that. By the way this is going to work, we're going to look at that. But if we feel things are skewed, there will be some judge intervention at the end as well. So we'll check those things as well. Let's move on to the next category, artificial intelligence. So new category within the toolkit. Obviously, with all the stuff that's happening, we've kind of added that in. There's some obvious ones in here, and then there's some not so obvious. So Louise, take us away. What's in this category?
Yeah, so the shortlisted tools for artificial intelligence are ChatGPT, competitors.app, iQuant, Jasper.ai, Midjourney, and Video.ai.
Okay, so just to start with on this, ChatGPT, and then no big surprises. Lots of marketers kind of playing around with it. We're going to come to an episode shortly where we've been doing some real world testing with this and talk about some pros and cons. Two in here, that this is the category for me that's been really interesting. So competitors.app and video.ai. So just to explain what they are. So competitors.app allows you to monitor your competitors, their social media, their email, their website, and it will give you a feed of what they changed, what they've updated, what's new. But it allows you to benchmark yourself against your competitors. It's brilliant. I absolutely love it. Video.ai, very clever, basically goes through and allows you to take a video and automatically break it up into shorter videos, does captions, it does different formats. Really, really nice.
And that's VIDYO.
VIDYO.ai, that's right.
Yeah. Put them all in the show notes.
Yeah, we will put them in the show notes. But what's interesting is that those are the two that then contacted us afterwards and said, oh my God, we've got loads and loads of leads since we've been on there. These two are getting huge amounts of votes at the moment because they're obviously leveraging their community. So well done. I encourage it. It's very, very good. iQuant, which is artificial intelligence simulated eye tracker studies, which are 90% accurate. We interviewed these guys.
We did, yeah, really. I mean, it's such a good product. And I can't stress this enough. If you are not investing in conversion rate optimization, like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Sort it out. Like, why wouldn't you want to do that?
Well, I tell you, this is interesting because I think that we build websites, we look at analytics, and then 5 years later, we build a new website, right? Whereas actually, we should be constantly optimizing. Just really high level because you can't really share it, but talk us through a recent test that you've done.
Okay, so I mean, every time we do tests, this surprises me. But we did a simple A/B test.
So this is kind of a lead generation website.
Lead generation website, 2 different landing pages. And what we did was we had a suspicion that the mobile version of the older page
was letting us
down a bit. And particularly because this particular company do a lot of activity through things like Google Ads and Facebook Ads. They get a lot of mobile traffic, right? And so it made sense. Now could we optimize the mobile version? So we did that, and it's all the same information, slightly different order, but presented in a way that was fully mobile optimized. Like, it looked really slick on mobile, and it interacted, and it worked really, really nicely. 54% increase in conversions.
Wow!
And this is my point, guys. Like, really, we don't know what we don't know, and we stick with what we do. But actually, if you A/B test, you discover new opportunities.
And you should do it constantly, right?
Constantly. Why wait until you get the new website?
Yeah.
Do that. You could be running these every week or every month.
So Conversion Rate Experts, who are a really great CRO agency, they've got the book Making Websites Win.
Yeah.
If you haven't downloaded it, it's really worth downloading. But they go on and on and on about A/B testing and user testing. And we've seen this. We did some user testing, and you learn stuff immediately. It's really...
And a lot of marketers end up sat on the fence, paralyzed with, I don't know which tool to use. I don't know how to do it. You put it off. Just sort it out. And it literally just takes a couple of hours to get this set up and run. And it doesn't need to be complicated. With this test, we just built 2 different versions of the same landing page. So the tool we use, I wanted to use Google Optimize, but they're sunsetting it in September. I thought there's no point running that now because we won't be able to carry on with the same data. So there's a few, if you go to the Google Optimize website, they recommend a few other tools. The one I opted up for was Visual Website Optimizer, which hasn't been nominated.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
VWO.
But I will give it a shout anyway. What I love, it actually, as these tools go, it's probably one of the more expensive ones. But what I love is they give you a free edition, which gives you up to 50,000 unique visitors a month to test with. That's
for a lot of
plenty for a
websites.
lot of websites. And actually, if you've got more than that, you can well afford, the investment will be tiny compared to what your website's making. So I think it's quite a nice structure, but I'd encourage everybody to have a play with it. They were fantastic at getting me set up. So
Nice.
I was able to arrange a call with them. They went through, talked me through it, ironed out any kinks, and away we went.
Yeah, and this is kind of a bit of a correction for me as well, because when Google Optimize was shutting down, we mentioned in the previous GA4 episode, because Google had said initially, we're going to build it into GA4. And we'd mentioned that. We're going to, okay, that's fine. They're not.
Waiting.
Now what they're doing
Still
is
waiting.
what they're now saying is that it's not going to be in GA4. It's actually going to be, we're going to be supporting these external tools.
Right.
So that's the route they've gone down, which is kind of fine. So there are other tools out there that are recommended. I think there's like 3 on the list at the moment that they're talking about. Right, the next one on this one, Jasper.ai. So it's a lot of people will be familiar with it. It's a great writing tool. It's kind of an interface that sits on top of ChatGPT, but it will learn your tone of voice now. It knows company facts about the organization. So it's a really, really lovely writing tool.
It also gives you different templates, which I find is quite useful.
Yeah.
So like different writing frameworks or different YouTube templates.
Yeah.
So it really suits your needs.
Yeah, it's a nice tool. And it's kind of interesting because it was the first tool that switched us on to all this stuff. And it's almost exactly a year ago. Shows you how much things have changed. I was at Inbound 2022, the HubSpot conference, and I was interviewing one of the guys from HubSpot, and he said, you've been playing with Jasper. It's a great tool. Yeah, he said, it sits on this thing called GPT. And I was like, what's that then? And he said, well, it's this amazing thing. And I was like, I've never heard of it. And it just wasn't even on my radar, and that switched us onto it at that point. And then suddenly everything that's happened in the last year has kind of happened. So that's worth looking at. Now, OpenAI, who do ChatGPT, their graphics tool is DALL-E, which is good, but it's weird on faces. It makes quite scary looking people.
It's got a style as well, isn't it? I don't particularly like the stylistic approach.
Whereas Midjourney, which is the next one on the list, is just incredible. It is absolutely light years ahead. The problem is you have to interface with it via a Discord chatbot at the moment. So it puts a few people off. But I've been playing Midjourney, and you can get really artistic with it. And what's really interesting is you can see, because it's in public forums, you can see other people's prompts and what they're generating. And you can really learn from it. And we're kind of learning, the better the art of prompting becomes really, really important. And it's a real skill.
They've got some really nice how-tos and walkthroughs to get you started with it. So again, I think it's well worth making the investment
completely
to have a play around with it, because actually in a short space of time, you can be creating stuff that's actually quite usable.
Yeah, massively so. So some really interesting tools in there. So get voting on that category, targetinternet.com/awards. Let's move on to the next one. So we've got content is the next category. So talk us through those, Louise.
So the shortlisted tools for content are Canva, Descript, Libsyn, Lumen 5, Riverside, and Vista Create.
Okay, so there's interestingly, there's a few in here that we use all the time, right? Yeah. So Canva, big fan of, online graphics package. If you haven't come across it recently, there's all sorts of apps built into it now.
Yeah.
So it's got DALL-E built into it, if you don't mind using DALL-E. But also it's got like product placement. So you can put your screenshot onto a screen.
Yeah, the smart mock-ups.
Yeah, mock-ups is really, really nice. So they've got some really good things. So they keep developing, which I think is great. And it's a real success story in terms of the business itself. So that's great. Descript. Okay, this boggled my mind this week. So Descript we use for podcast editing, right? So you upload a podcast and it automatically transcribes it, and then you can edit the audio or the video, and they're doing a lot more video features based on editing the text. So like cutting a paragraph out, it will seam it together, all that kind of good stuff. But what's really interesting is, one, that it learns your voice, and it's been getting better at learning my voice. So I did a little test at a conference the other day, and people were just a bit mind blown how good it is. But the thing I've seen this week that they're doing, which I didn't realize, when you're recording a video and you're talking to camera, and you're doing it in front of your laptop, something like that, you might have a script that you want to read. But the problem is you're not looking at the camera. Your eyes are looking at the script going backwards and forwards or to the side of the screen. So you just look a bit weird and wacky.
A bit shifty.
Yeah, you do look very shifty, right? So they've got this new AI thing where you run it, you just record a video, right? And you read your script off to the side of the screen, whatever it is.
Does it read your eye movements?
It makes you look at the camera.
No.
And unless you're doing really wacky stuff, it's really, really effective.
And it looks legit. It doesn't look like a...
No, it just looks like you're looking at the camera. So we're starting to get into that, that uncanny valley where you can't tell things are real or not. So I thought that was interesting with Descript. Libsyn, Yeah, we love Libsyn. Libsyn's been publishing our podcast for us for 13 years, whatever it is.
So good.
Bulletproof.
Just don't go anywhere else,
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
That's how much I love Libsyn.
So it's great.
Yeah.
Lumen 5, I just get a shout out for this. We used it a long time. We stopped using it for a bit, but I'm kind of switching back onto it. It automatically can generate videos by you just point it at a blog post. It uses AI to pull out what it thinks the highlights, and then it edits it into an explainer sequence. It's suddenly doing them with like animated aspects and things like that into it as well. So it's a really nice tool. The key to it, I think, is using it right, i.e. you do what it does and then you kind of adjust it and you kind of improve it over a period of time as well.
It's the massive thing you have to realize about tools like Lumen 5 is they make a huge difference to the levels of engagement you get. And it's that whole thing of movement. Like everybody really does need to move on from putting static images and text on social media platforms because, yeah, you can do it and they'll take them. But in terms of the engagement.
Well, other than carousels, because carousels at the moment in LinkedIn and Instagram, where you've got a bit of a story, like actually working, but it's movement.
It's got movement.
Yeah,
it's got movement. So I'm not saying it has to be video, it just has to have that movement because our eyes are just drawn to it. They're just drawn to it.
Riverside, you talk to this one, Kieran, because you like this.
I do really love Riverside. So Riverside, I use this all the time, and actually, you guys have like listened to the output. We use it when we do the audio interviews, and it's just so good. It gives you an interface like a studio. So, Louise, I can invite you into my studio, and you're effectively on a remote link. You know, we could be in different parts of the world. What I love is that I get high resolution video and audio. Right, so for years we used to record things over Skype. When you do that, I can record both channels, but I only get the compressed video. And if there are any like juds or judders in the link, they're in the video. There's nothing you can do. What Riverside does really cleverly is that actually we stream so we can see one another live, but that's not what I get. What I get are hard drive recordings from my machine and your machine. And they're uploaded in the background. So it's a bit weird once you finish the interview. I normally have to keep people talking for a little bit to wait for the rest of the content to have been uploaded. And what I end up with is 2 high quality files. I also love the fact that you can see exactly what mic they're using. You'd be amazed how many people, I'm not going to name names, but people come and they've got like amazing microphones and you can see them there on the screen. And then literally, you can see on Riverside, actually, they're using the laptop mic. They're not plugged in. So and
I've had that as well.
Sounds awful, really, really awful. So you can just make sure you get those things right. Like if you're doing remote stuff, huge game changer. And actually, I was working with a charity who wanted to set up a podcast. And their initial plan was they were going to invite charity partners into their studios in Cardiff. I'm like, why would you do that? That's going to send your costs soaring. You're a charity. Let's keep it low key. I put them onto Riverside, and they're loving it because actually it's stopped all the travel expenses and all the time involved in that, and it just means that the whole thing can be much more fluid, much more agile. So if that's your thing, if you're creating content, you need to do it remotely. Check it out. I think it's brilliant.
And the last one then, with Vista Create. I wasn't familiar with Vista Create, but Vista Create is a competitor for Canva, right?
It is in a way. It's a free mobile app. So you get it for iOS or Android. Okay. And check it out, download it. What I love about Vista Create, there's a ton of animation features within it. So in terms of getting that movement I was talking about, you can get that good stuff. And it's really flexible, really, really flexible. And it sort of builds on what a lot of the social media creation tools do, but just takes it on that extra step. And you've got templates to output in like multiple sizes and formats. Yeah, really, really good. Check it out.
Get voting in that one then, everyone. So let's move on to the last one for today, which is the data and insights category. And there's a couple of my favourites in here. So take us through them, Louise. So
the shortlisted tools for data and insights are Coggle, Data Reportal, Miro, SimilarWeb, 31 Circles, and Uexpressia.
Okay, let's go through those. So Coggle, I'm looking at Coggle on my screen now, right? So Coggle is the thing that allows you to do kind of mind maps, and it's a collaborative piece of software. And I just love the way it works. And I sit down once every 6 weeks to plan out all the podcasts, and then we share it with the team. It's just excellent. So I'm a huge fan of Coggle. So to have a look at it, coggle.it. Data Reporter, who we've got coming on the podcast at some point in the near future. Those brilliant annual reports, quarterly updates on every stat under the sun. So yeah, absolutely brilliant. If you haven't seen them, definitely worth going to look at. If you're building any situational analysis, you need to do some market assessment, is the place to go. It will save you just an absolute ton of time as well. Miro is an interesting one because Miro is, maybe digital marketers aren't that switched onto it normally, but it kind of does similar things to Coggle, and it's a collaborative platform for designing and laying things out. But we use it in design thinking, so in digital transformation, a lot of the time as well. And there's a ton of really great templates, and it's really about collaboration. So it's this whole piece that you can go in and you're going to do some sort of meeting, and there'll be a structure on there already that you can kind of go through to go and do that. So I think that's kind of brilliant as well. SimilarWeb's been around for a long time, and I'm a big fan of SimilarWeb as well. SimilarWeb is basically like web analytics for other people's websites. So you can go and point it at a website, and it will give you a load of estimated analytics. Now, I've used it on websites and then looked at the actual analytics of those websites where we've got access. And within 10% in a lot of cases, it's pretty good. I mean, it's not always, what you can't do is compare analytics to SimilarWeb. You've got to do like for like, and it's not always right, but it will give you something you would not get otherwise.
The numbers can be out, but the trends are always true.
Yeah, it seems to be 100% true.
That's all you're really looking for anyway, I think, with those sort of things. So one of the drawbacks I've found with it is there is you need to be a website of a certain size, with a certain amount of traffic before they've got enough data that they can work their magic on it. But yeah, any of the major competitors for big businesses, you'll find them there, and it's a really useful steer. Yeah, definitely check it out.
Yeah, definitely useful. And then this one's a completely new one to me. So 31 Circles was nominated. It's got quite a few votes already. And talk us through it, Kieran. You're playing with this.
I love this. I want to play with it. I literally do. I've been looking for an opportunity to put it into practice. So what this does is it gives you the ability of creating marketing audiences from first-party data, right? And this is so good. So
let's explain to people what that means.
So one of the big problems or big challenges in the current landscape is a lot of the data that's being pulled by lots of various networks ends up being what's called a third-party data, third-party audience. So, for example, if I'm using the Meta Pixel, for example, that's data's all going through to Meta, and Meta have worked really hard to enable people to use that. But what if you could create your own audience from your own data and then share it with X, with Pinterest, with Meta, with Google Ads, with Snapchat, with TikTok? That's what 31 Circles does. So it's a really nice
Well, HubSpot do that actually. HubSpot have got something built in as well, built into the CRM, similar kind of thing.
But because you're using your own website data to build these audiences, and it's possible to do that in isolation on particular platforms, but to have one ring to rule them all, I think, really, really good. And I can see why people are loving it.
Last one in this category, UXpressia. UXpressia allows you to build personas and user journey maps. It's really intuitive. I use it in training courses a lot. My students have been using it, and it's just a good platform for building out pretty robust personas, and particularly I like it for user journey maps because it makes it quite easy to kind of lay them out in a nice way as well. So that's been a pretty popular one as well. That's the last one in that category. I think though it's really interesting to me. There's some good ones we all know in there, and there's some new ones I hadn't even come across as well that seem to be picking up a lot of votes as well. So it's interesting. So if you haven't voted yet, targetinternet.com/awards. If you are one of the people that are nominated, encourage your audience to kind of vote as well. If there's tools that are missing, do let us know still, because we can put them in for next time as well. But you should have nominated them. But then we
love a tool.
Yeah, we do. We'll mention. I mean, as we did today, we'll mention tools that aren't in there anyway as well. But you can go in and vote, and then we will be having the awards and all those kind of things, and handing those physical kind of awards out to all of those people as well. So thank you for listening to the Digital Marketing Podcast. Get and vote if you haven't. Targetinternet.com/awards. Part 2 of this will be coming shortly, and you'll see all the other categories. So if you want some more tools, listen to the next episode as well.
Please subscribe for more videos like this, and visit targetinternet.com for more free digital marketing resources.